Alright, Lanta, so SSR Gin is going to be the next character to release over on Bleach Soul Resonance. It was scheduled to release on the 2nd of January, but of course did get delayed a week with the new schedule, and it's scheduled to come out now on the 9th of January. As we are now so close to the date though, on the website we have now confirmed that Gin is going to be a full assault thrust type unit that of course is going to be capable of dealing high damage output. Which I think is actually really good timing because this team does definitely need a new full assault upgrade. Not that Ikaku is bad or anything, but he really just feels like a basic attack character until Kaname can come out and deal most of the damage. So with that in mind, especially as someone that does not own Kaname, I'm pretty excited about Gin. And in this case, we do have some new updated gameplay. We've technically already seen it before, but we're going to rewatch it just in case something's a little bit different, now that he has officially been revealed. I will say though, I'm liking the art, and maybe it's noticeable, but do we have voice acting? I don't think the last one's had that. So that's going to be his, that's his special attack. Then we have his technique, just a bunch of slashes, which looks pretty cool. Continued on with the basic attack. Then we have the ultimate. But you know what, for Gin, we said it in the initial reaction, I think it's actually pretty good. I mean, Gin compared to Aizen is always going to pale in comparison. Every character is going to pale in comparison when compared to Aizen. Especially because of how cool and different Aizen is as a character. But, you know, Gin as a character, from a visual standpoint, really is a character that just has a blade that extends itself. Just does some slashes. Even though I think they are missing out on a few of his actual noticeable abilities, like, I can't even say any on the top of my head, but there are a few I think that are missing here. I do actually really like the ultimate. Him opening his eyes, the close-up, he does the stab that he tries to do to Aizen, and then you do get the screen crack too. I think they made Gin look pretty cool for how simple of a character he is, where his blade, again, only extends. Maybe I'm downplaying Gin, maybe I'm wrong. Regardless, though, I'm definitely going to be summoning just because, again, I am missing Ikaku. I have every character in the game but Ikaku, and I'm fine with it because the idea was always to summon for Gin. Now, with that in mind, a few weeks ago, at this point, we did talk about Gin's data mined or leaked kit, which honestly seemed really, really good. And since then, there's now been some changes made that I feel like is worth talking about. Again, like always, it's another leak, so take it with a grain of salt. Nothing is guaranteed until we see the character in-game, but these are quite noticeable changes, and I think probably good changes. You could see it as a nerf, at the same time, though, you could see it as a buff. The way I'm seeing it is that they're just changing how he is going to be dealing damage. So, what you're going to see here, shout out to, again, the leaker that data mined this, and shout out to the person that posted on Reddit, but what you're going to see here is that a lot of the damage numbers are now being lowered, because his multipliers were actually surprisingly high, comparing them to Ichigo and, you know, Toshiro. Gin looked to be a really good damage dealer. And the way, of course, Gin is going to work is that he does want to get the technique points, inflict impale scale, which is going to deal damage over time. And then you're going to use these points that you can gather up, of course, to also, you know, use his skill, which is a charge effect. Now, what they've gone ahead and changed is that they've now lowered his damage multipliers. So again, just using his, what is this? His special attack in particular, instead of being 550% of his attack, is now 220% of his attack. For the special attack, it's still inflicting 10 impale points, so now it's just dealing less damage. But upon a successful hit, the recovery time of technique points is reduced by 1 second. So I think the idea here is that they want the character to build up technique points faster so that you can use your enhanced skill more. The character apparently has 2 special attacks. In this case, Gin leaps over the enemy. I think it's just the second part of the attack, right? Again, 800 before, which is very, very high, is now 330%. Also still inflicts 20 impale scale, but now does also reduce the recovery of giving you 1 technique point. I guess in that sense, this was maybe a little bit of enough because Gin originally gained a technique point. So again, I wouldn't say enough. They're just changing how he's working. Technically, we're not even supposed to know all these details, right? It's just one of the things that comes with data mining or leaking characters. But maybe the more interesting ones here is in regards to Gin's passive. So before, you can inflict impale skill, and that will trigger once it does reach 100, and it will do upwards to 400% of Gin's attack. That has stayed the exact same. So nothing about Gin here has really changed. The thing that has changed, though, is when Gin isn't on the field. So except for Gin's attacks, his teammates' special attacks, technique, battlefield skills, ultimates, and counterattacks can also inflict 10 impale scale on a cooldown of 1 second. So now, it's the exact same thing, but impale triggered by teammates is now counted as if it was Gin's attacks. So I would say this one is a direct buff. Because you're still getting the same effect, but now you're getting the extra effect where if Gin isn't on the field, you can still get off his powerful attack when you inflict 100 points of impel scale. And that actually makes sense to the kit, because what would have happened if Rangiku inflicted the impel scale and it reached 100s? Would it only count for Rangiku's attack? So I'm glad they've actually gone ahead and changed that. When it comes to his technique, in terms of damage numbers, we can't really see the difference here. But I would say that's actually a big buff. Now it only consumes 1 technique point per charge. Originally it was 2, which I don't think ever made sense, because I think that was always capped at 3. So again, likely what we were looking at here was early stuff that, again, we shouldn't have seen. But now it has the added effect of recovering 1 technique point automatically every 10 seconds. His first passive boost, though, has actually changed, so every time Impel is triggered, Gin has a 100% chance of gaining an extra technique point every 4 seconds. Now that is changed to increase his spiritual pressure charge rate by 50% when landing the basic attack. And truth be told, when we had that data mined gameplay, that might have been the case, because if you remember that gameplay, he gained his spiritual pressure very fast. Like after 1 basic attack combo, he was ready to use a special attack. So it does seem like special attacks are going to be a big part about this character, and losing that 1 technique point here isn't really that big of a deal. You are gaining it every 10 seconds now passively due to his technique. For his second passive, whenever his teammate used a battlefield skill or a technique hit the enemy, it would increase the amount of impel scale by 60%. This has now been completely changed, right, to now having every time impel scale is triggered, technique points recover time is reduced by 30 seconds on a 4-second cooldown. Not sure how I feel about this one, but overall it just means you're getting more technique points. That's a big part of the character. Seems like his technique points want to be on a cooldown and not something you get every time you just attack the enemies. His third passive had impel damage increased by 150%. Overall, that was a good one, but now it increases technique damage by an extra 90% when Gin's attacking enemies affected by debuffs. I actually like this change more, because he is the first character introducing the charge effect of the character, and I would assume that's going to be a big part about his kit in terms of how he does deal damage, just straight from the technique. So now you get extra 90% damage when you are hitting enemies with debuffs, and I think the idea is that when you do use Rangiku, for example, they're going to be debuffed, so you're guaranteed that extra 90% damage increase, which I think is going to be a lot better when compared to impel scale. So do like that passive change. In this case, I'm not even going to really talk about the duplicates, because I assume most people don't care, but they have changed a little bit. I guess if anything, let's talk about the first duplicates, and I guess last, right? First duplicate now is a lot better. You gain 100 technique points immediately when the battle does start, and after releasing the ultimates, you fully recover your technique points. So Gin's duplicate, actually, the first duplicate does sound really good. That sounds like an upgrade in my opinion. His second boundary was that you gain 6 technique points immediately, and then you do get 1 every, 12 seconds. In this case, it now increases his damage output by his technique in particular, because that should be a big part about it, by 6%. And then every time you do hit an enemy with your basic attack combo, you're just, again, lowering the cooldown for the technique point recovery. Now, his 6th duplicate, to be fair, has caused a lot of controversy, because they are technically gatekeeping a Gin ability behind his final duplicate. So in this case, the ultimate inflicts snake venom on the enemy. So that's like an extra stat element that you can inflict on an enemy that you don't have unless you have the character boundary 6. I don't think it changes any animations. I don't think there's even going to be a big part about the character's damage output. But I do know that a lot of people are not a fan of gatekeeping a whole ability, technically, by having the character max dupes. Like, we all understand duplicates are going to increase damage. This technically is another way of doing it. But technically, the whole idea is snake venom, which is his whole Bankai. You don't get that unless you get the character max dupes. But other than that, the 6th boundary before would overall just be about, using your technique points. Just again, overall charge, it basically stayed the same. Now you're just getting more damage on your charge. When it comes to his weapon stamp, they are pretty much the exact same. They just lowered down the numbers. Maybe, again, they thought the character was originally doing too much damage, because that kind of seemed to be the case. And then for the core stamps, which hopefully should be easy to get in the future, right, with the upcoming update whenever that does happen. Before, it would increase his ultimate damage by 75%, and every 1 technique point consumed increases the next ultimate's crit damage by 10%, stacking up to 12 times. That's actually pretty good. So now, you increase your ultimate damage by 75%. That's still the same. You also now get ailment damage increased by a certain percentage. You don't know the percentage, but that is a buff in my opinion. And then I believe this has also stayed the exact same. So again, at least in the core stamp, it did get a noticeable increase here. What you're essentially seeing with Gin is that they've lowered his damage numbers, his raw damage numbers, to make up for the fact that he potentially now wants to deal more damage on his status elements. And while it's not here, I do believe Rangiku has also changed. Originally, the big thing about her is that she would provide an attack percentage increase. Now she's providing more ailment damage increase. And I think, honestly, with the idea for this team, that works a lot better for the Frost type team right now. So if you are someone that is looking forward to summoning for Gin, now is basically the last few days that you can prepare for it by, of course, building up Kaname. And again, the whole thing with Kaname, right? He wants to deal a lot of element damage bonus, right? That's how you are going to build him. So I do like now that Gin and Rangiku are more in line with that to work more well with Kaname. This team is going to be dealing a lot of damage strictly from element damage, which I think is kind of cool. It's different compared to what the other teams do offer. And right now, every team is offering something unique. Ichigo is just like a super damage dealing unit that stays on the field a lot, takes up a lot of screen time, whereas Aizen and also, to be fair, you can use Aizen everywhere, right? But Aizen and Toshiro are all about just doing constant switching back and forth, counter-attacking, etc. The Strike team definitely needs a new character. That's probably next, to be fair. And I kind of like that right now the identity for the Frost type team is all about just dealing element damage. I'd be curious to see if that's going to be something that they will keep throughout the game. Probably not. I don't think that seems likely, but I think right now Gin is looking good, overall working well with Kaname, and of course Rangiku is going to make both characters now even better. I'm excited to try this team because, again, like I said, I have every character in the game but Ikkaku, so I haven't really had time to really mess around with a Frost-type team. Even though I have Kaname, and I've actually worked on him quite well, got some good stuff going for him. Either way, that's the video for today. Let me know what you'd like to think about Gin in the comments below, based on we have seen some of the leaks and also now official gameplay. He's only a few days away. Are you summoning for him? I'm curious to know, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.